Hello and welcome to Shaper Sessions. My name is Jake.
And I'm Russ.
Today we are going over to Aspen's shop to talk about her dustpan from her brush that was a masterclass, or it was a premium project that she released a while ago. She then released an accompanying dustpan for it, and it's really cool.
We're going to her shop.
Yeah, well, I mean virtually, but yeah.
Nice. We're making a project. We do have a shop tour from her coming in the middle of the show, so that's exciting. We are building the origin parts of this dustpan today. And these are some projects that we've had for a while, kind of kicking around the Shaper ecosystem, but we realized that we haven't really done a show on this dustpan.
Yeah.
And we got to show you guys how the origin side of this stuff works.
Right, because she does an incredible job at doing the hand tool woodworking side. So we're going to leave that to her. We're going to do the origin side. Yeah.
I think we should show everybody these projects.
Yes.
So that you have a little bit of an idea of what we're talking about, what even are Shaper Masterclasses. So let's pop over to the computer here. Masterclasses are this series of educational videos that we put together. Educational videos makes them sound so friggin' boring.
They're so cool.
But they're so friggin' cool. This is like an hour plus of educational content from Aspen about how to use hand tools in your shop. We are going to go through this in more detail later, halfway through the show. I also want to show you on Shaper Hub this bench dustpan. So this is what we're working on today. She teaches you in this masterclass how to do all the hand tool shaping of these beautiful pieces. And we are going to show you how to do the origin parts. Origin parts being this sweet bent lamination fixture for tapered bent lamination. And then the base profile of this dustpan is cut with origin as well.
Sweet.
So before we get started cutting, welcome to Shaper Sessions. As usual, this is a live show. We've got Q&A going in the chat. We've got Ted there, so ask him all of your questions. We've got a giveaway at the end of the show, and we're going to answer all those questions live at the end of the show, so stay tuned for that. Also, halfway through the show, we're going to have a poll question. This is how you enter the giveaway.
Yeah.
That's super important. So when that pops up, make sure you answer that. The question today is going to be, because we've put out a bunch of these masterclasses at this point, more than 5, less than 10, more than 5.
Yeah,
we'll go
multiple
through them
languages.
Multiple languages. Which one have you learned the most from? Because we hope that you've watched a few of them. If you haven't, this is your reminder to go check them out.
Cool.
How's that for an intro?
I think that's excellent.
Should we cut something?
Always.
Nice. So what do you have queued up here?
I have a piece of 3/16 thick white oak, and that's what we're going to make our base out of. Don't mind the 3 different species that we got going on here. I chose to do this out of oak.
We've got oak.
Oh, there you
over
go.
Here. Yeah.
Oak brush.
So we're going to make one to match this brush. And to show folks what we're going toward, here's the bottom of this that's kind of rabbited in there. We can show that off on that side cam there. You can barely see the rabbit because it's smooth as heck. But we are making this shape that we can glue these bent laminations to.
Yeah. I love this project because there's so many new techniques that you learn in it, and it's so intricate. Mm-hmm. It's a small dustpan, but you're putting so much love and attention into this dustpan. It's great. There are techniques that you can apply to everything, and that is the point.
Sweet.
All right. Let's get cutting.
What do you got here? You've got this file pulled up on Origin. It's all placed in your workspace. So you're ready to go.
I am ready to go. I'm just going to do a quick helix cut for the hole, and I'll do 2 passes around the outside, a roughing and a finish pass.
Nice. So we're going to breeze through this first one. We like to get this first cut going just while people kind of filter in to the show, tell you a little bit about how Origin works, but then later we'll go through the process of actually setting up one of these files from scratch for the bent lamination forms. Y'all set, Jake?
Let's let it rip.
Cool. So we've got 2 cuts here. The hole for hanging the brush on the wall. When Jake says that's a helix cut, that means that Origin's going to go ahead and automatically cut that whole thing for you as long as the entire cut path is inside Origin's corrective range circle. And now, I mean, that's already done, so he's going to go ahead and set up for the outside cut around the outside of this template. He's using auto pass here in 2 passes. and that's going to ramp down automatically, step by step. I think he's just doing one depth on this, but first a roughing pass and then a finish pass, hence the pass 1 of 2 right now. So as Jake goes around this outline, Origin's going to keep him right on that dotted line. That's right on track for this template, even as he's wandering around a bit. So you can see if he goes outside of that corrective range, Origin's going to retract automatically and prevent him from cutting into his work. You can always go right back to where he was, pick up where he left off, and go ahead and continue right around this cut. So we're coming up on the end of the first cut here, and it's going to transition smoothly into that second cut, the finishing pass. The difference between the roughing and the finishing pass here is that in the finishing pass, we're moving a lot less material. So just like a roughing and a finishing pass on a bigger CNC machine, you will get the finest possible results just by taking that last little skim cut around the profile of the cut. In this porthole view here, you can see that corrective range working. You can see the spindle floating inside that corrective range there. And there's the end.
All right.
Nice. Quick work of that.
This is the kind of application where you just can't beat the workstation shelf.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a weird, odd thickness, 3/16. It just makes it so easy to have a nice level cutting field.
Yeah, it looks like a good part.
Be real
Careful going across the grain
exactly tender on this guy. There you go.
That's it. So that's the base.
There we go.
This show might go quicker than I thought, Jake.
It might.
So we've got this base that we're cutting out. We're going to cut out some more parts for this bending fixture here. Also, we've got half of it cut out here already. And I'm going to set this down so you can actually see a little bit of the taper. You can see when I have this set up nice and square, how much closer it is at the top than at the bottom. Down here, it's a little wider at the bottom. That's to match the taper that Aspen specifies for these bent lamination strips. And then at the end, we're going to do a little trace demo because we haven't done trace in a while. We're going to show you how we get this contour repeatedly done on the side of your dustpan.
Cool. Nice thing about using Origin to make any kind of forms, but especially stacked forms like we're doing today, is you're cutting out the exact same part. It's a digital file that you're following along, so they're going to be the exact same size. And we have these little registration pins for 3/8 dowel that makes stacking it up super easy, so you can do thicker forms.
So we're going to go ahead and cut this. So what are you doing to set up? You were talking about how Workstation's shelf is so good for these different thickness parts, right? So that's the first thing, is we've got to set up the height on this.
Exactly. So I'm going to go ahead and drop it down. Put my support bar into position, into its zeroing position. Bring it up so it's nice and snug. Lock it into place. And now I'm totally flush with the top surface.
Nice. So this is how we zero out that material on Workstation. We were just using, what was it, 3/16 inch material?
Yeah.
And now we're going to something closer to 3/4 inch material. All you need to do is drop that shelf down, re-register it, and the top of your material is going to be right in the same plane as the top surface of Workstation. We got double-sided tape here for fixturing. Makes holding these parts in place pretty easy. And then all you're doing right now is just flipping it over and also kind of lining it up to the marks that are here before from the last pair of fixtures that you cut.
Yeah, mine as well. I also want to make sure that I have room along the back edge so I don't cut into my workstation. So I'm being conscious of that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do cut into your workstation, rest assured, you're not alone.
We just swap ours out every time we do it.
Exactly.
We should show one of the most abused workstations in the shop on one of these shows. a trade show workstation. How about that?
Yeah. Funny enough, we cut into them more at trade shows because we're like doing demos really fast and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm going to swap to the 5mm O flute. This is, we've talked about it before on here. We love this cutter because it just absolutely demolishes sheet goods, especially MDF. And instead of doing a bunch of depth passes or even auto pass for that matter, we can just do it in one, or a roughing and a finishing, but a full depth pass.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Go ahead and start it off with a new scan.
So we're going through the whole process of setting this up from scratch here. The process as written on the Shaper Origin screen on the right-hand side there, you can see it's scan, design, cut. So the first thing that Jake's doing is making a scan that's taking a big picture of this workspace. And I know this could get kind of repetitive for folks who have seen this before, but we really want to drive home the basics.
Yep. I'm going to go ahead and create a grid just so that I'm placing these files along the edge, so I'm not cutting the entire thing out unnecessarily. New. Now I have a 5mm cutter. And I'm going to lower it down back behind, in between my workstation and my material. Make contact. Probe. Probe. And probe.
And so you're setting the origin point of this coordinate system here.
Exactly.
On that back left corner. You're making an x-axis with those first two probe points and the y-axis with the third probe point.
Yeah, just it makes things nice and easy and parallel to the edge of the material too. Going to go ahead and bring in part 1. Grabbing that top left anchor. I can just snap it to that 0, 0 point. Place. And the second one, I'm going to rotate this guy 180 degrees so I can fit it kind of nested along here on this piece of material.
Mm-hmm.
Bingo.
Sweet.
Okay, so got to make sure that Origin knows I have a 5mm cutter. Let's do its Z-touch.
Yeah, when in doubt, I say go through every single one of those cut settings. There's not that many of them. There's only, what, 6?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we just got 2 of them. We got the diameter, and it Z-touches automatically. So we've got 2 of those out of the way. What are we doing next?
I'm going to do the holes first for the dowels. And they're 3/8 dowels. These holes are exactly 3/8. So I'm going to actually undersize them just a hair, 0.7 of an inch, just so that the these like fluted dowel pegs are a nice tight fit.
Okay. And so you're using offsets for that. We say when you're using offsets, a positive offset always leaves more material. So it's going to make your hole smaller because you have more material around the edge. So a 0.7 offset is going to make that hole smaller.
Yeah.
What other settings do we want to look at? You're doing an inside cut on this, obviously.
For this, I'm just going to turn auto pass off and turn helix on because they're holes.
Okay, and it's going to helix that all the way down to the final depth in one go.
Exactly. After I do these 2 holes, I will come back in and turn auto pass back on and just adjust the settings to be a lot more aggressive because of this bit that we're using.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll do a 3/4 inch depth pass, I don't know, with like a slightly bigger roughing offset because we're going so deep.
Okay, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. That's for that outside pass.
Yeah.
So first we're going to helix that. What other settings do we want to keep in mind for that? You've got your final depth set. That's the very top setting. That's at 0.75 inches. And do we want to look at the speeds for this at all?
Never hurts. Typically keep these at around default, which is 15 inches per minute for the plunge. And I think it's actually
A little slower on the auto, right?
10 for the auto. I like 15.
You like 15? All right, let's do it.
Great. And we're doing spindle speed 5.
All right, so these holes are going to go quick, and then you're going to switch into auto pass and cut those outside profiles.
Exactly.
Nice. So a little more of a chance to dwell on these helix features here. You can see Jake's just holding origin completely still here, and the spindle is going to go ahead and spiral all the way down to the bottom of that hole. That helix feature is going to be available anytime the dotted cut path is contained entirely within the corrective range of origin. So if you've got a big hole that you need to helix or drill, as long as you have a large enough cutter to make that tool path nice and tight, you'll be able to helix that all in one pass. So now to cut the outside profile of this, Jake has turned auto pass back on, and he's ramping this all the way down to 0.75 inches with this 5mm O-flute router bit. So you can see how well it cuts. And it's pretty easy to just zing around the outside of this. Note, this is kind of like going from cutting along the grain to cutting against the grain. Going around the edge of material where you're not cutting anything to then going through the material. Origin's a hand tool at the end of the day, and you will feel a change in resistance as you go from not cutting much to cutting a whole lot all at once. This is a pretty hefty pass, 3/4 of an inch. So keep that in mind as you transition between these cut zones in your project. Just like cutting across the grain to against the grain, you are going to feel a change in resistance there. And now that Jake is back to just his finishing pass here, again, finishing passes remove much less material than roughing passes, so there's going to be a lot less resistance, and you'll see that Jake is able to move origin even more smoothly than he was with that roughing pass. And you can see in the cut cam here that we're just taking off a shaving of material around the outside of this template. But props to that 5mm router bit for cutting this to depth all in one go. So that's the first of two. Let's check that out.
And there we go. As with anything with origin, we say that this 5mm O-flute can cut to full depth in a single pass, and it can, but it's something that you want to be comfortable doing. We don't recommend just like jumping into that right off the bat because it's going to act differently. It is pretty incredible how well it cuts.
I like to say get uncomfortable, Jake. I like to say
different
dive
camps.
right in, but do it on scrap first.
Yeah, there you go.
Because how else are you going to learn?
Nice. I'm going to leave that stuck down for now because it gives me a little bit more ride surface. For the next
It's not about the 18.
That startled
we
me.
jumped the gun on the shop tour a little bit. We'll get to it.
But hey, I think now we're into our little mid-show break.
Oh, yeah, because we were going to cut the first half of this, and then we were going to cut the second half of this after the mid-show break. I'm looking at our outline over here, of course. I thought, man, isn't he going to finish cutting that thing?
I could, and then...
Yeah, let's save it. Okay, so we got a couple of announcements, things that we want to talk about. Obviously, first thing is that poll question. This is how you enter the giveaway. The giveaway, we're going to give away one of these 5mm router bits. I think that's a good idea. And then the 8mm collet to go with it. So enter that poll question. That's going to be, which masterclass have you learned the most from? And speaking of masterclasses, I think we should go ahead and look at these. So here's our masterclass page with Aspen. Let's look at this in a little bit more detail. Masterclass with Aspen Golann. Hand tool woodworking. Let's scroll down to see all the kinds of things that you're going to learn from this. Hand tool basics, shaping with spoke shaves and chisels, etc. She uses a card scraper a lot, which I learned a ton about from this series. Lesson number 2, the 5-7 rule. This is for making beautiful curves, and this is an old tip from shipbuilding. Definitely want to check that out. Bent lamination with origin. So that is the crux of this project. This is how you use Origin to make these really cool curvy fixtures with bent laminated parts to make these really complex parts like the sides of this dustpan. Lesson number 4, shaping. So taking some of those lessons that you learned from part 1 and applying those to the dustpan itself. Part 1 and part 2, because there's a lot of info in there. Finishing techniques. I feel like this is the one topic that I have the most questions on perpetually.
Always.
Is finishing.
Yeah.
What do you use for finishing? Is it oils? Is it a wax? Is it a soap? Is it some, hyper modern chemical, whatever? So Aspen's tips on finishing. And then lesson number 7, hand-tied bristles. This goes back to the bench brush premium project, which has some tips on tying bristle bundles in there. But this video is much more long form than that, and it's really, really cool. If we go back to all of our master classes, I think I could just hit back here. You can see all of the instructors that we have on here. Aspen Golann, Hand Tool Woodworking. Matt Kenny, author of 52 Boxes in 52 Weeks, I think it is. Box making, start to finish, and he makes some really beautiful stuff. You'll learn a ton about not only box making, but holistic design from him.
Yeah.
Sayosi Design, they make wonderful furniture in the Midwest and got an incredible modern studio. If you're into more arts and crafts furniture, Daryl Peart has this masterclass on the art of green and green furniture, and we've got some shows on these projects as well. Jake's nodding his head. You can't see him over here, but he's like really into the green and green furniture.
Oh, yeah.
We've got Martin Winterhager on surface design. This is like, how do you get crazy textures out of your bandsaw, but do it on purpose? That's really fun. Joanna Roa on marquetry. Caleb James on chair making. Super good mid-century modern chair maker, Caleb James. Hand planes and woodworking basics. This is like, how do you even select wood in the first place if you're just getting started? From Roland Johnson. And then for the luthiers out there, guitar design and construction from Christoph Noy. That was a real mouthful. I feel like I just said a lot. Jake, what's your favorite masterclass out of all of these?
I think it's going to be Aspen's right now.
Okay.
Yeah, honestly. I love just her approach to hand shaping.
Well,
But also Caleb's also got a
that's the one that I was going to say.
pretty
I think
awesome
that's
approach.
My favorite.
Yeah.
Speaking of Aspen, we have a shop tour from her. We do these shop tours every week. If you would like to be sent something nice, send us your shop tour at sessions@shapertools.com. We've got a small queue of them, but we're taking submissions for later in this year.
Makes us feel better if we have a lot in the queue.
It
So
does
send
make us feel better if we have a lot in the queue. And I get so happy when I see them. I love seeing all our folks' shops. But please send that to us at sessions@shapertools.com. Aspen's is a really good example of this. It's 3-4 minutes or so. It's landscape orientation, and she narrates it and just tells us what's going on in her shop. It can be super casual. So without further ado,
Let's get some shop envy.
Let's play that. I've got big shop envy for this one.
Okay, hey, hello, welcome to our shop. So this is what it looks like. Here's the machine section. Walk right in. Everything you need to get going. I share this shop with my friend Wayne, who's over there. Boop, boop. With all of his amazing stuff. And then this is my area right over here. Yeah, this is where I do all the hand tool stuff, and where I process all of the projects after bucking up wood on the larger equipment. Got a few different benches, as you can see, and probably way too many tools. This is where I spend most of my time, just right here, or I guess more specifically, right there. Working on whatever it is I'm working on, and right now it happens to be mocking up and getting ready to do a big strap carving. So I've got some practice, got my hand cut pattern and my layout, tools are ready to go. raking light, all set. Also, as you can see, keep all of my hand tools easily accessible behind me and also directly in front. I'm a huge fan of the French cleat system. So I've got everything on these little custom shelves that fit onto the wall, really sturdy, and they're all marked. This is for my Wood River number 4, which smoothing plane, which I actually have at home right now because I'm working on a project. But the cool thing about it, I think, you know, other than it looks cute, is it makes it really easy for me to reorganize based on the project I'm doing. You know, sometimes I need my Kelly Harris tapering plane close by. Other times it's a jack plane. Always need my Starrett and spoke shaves, block plane, and all of my rasps and files. Those don't seem to ever get very far from my hand. Of course, you gotta have your dirty rag jack-o'-lantern and way too many plants. Got a great view of the water from this spot, which is my jewelry bench, which I know might seem like a strange thing for a woodworker to have, but I've been getting really into making custom cast bronze hardware. So this is where I do my little clay mock-ups, and then I make a more, you know, final mock-up out of wax, which you then work with this set of wax files and rasps and little rotary bits and different types of saws and a little jewelry, let's call it a jewelry vise, so that I'm able to start mocking up these pieces. So that's been a ton of fun. Everything is pretty obsessively organized in this space. I've got my little sharpening station. Everything I do is marked with these old school label maker markings, but it's the only way I can keep my brain together. But yeah, you can see every single drawer, including the Shaper Origin stuff. Yeah, and then another one of my fun systems is I've always got my to-do list hanging up, so otherwise I get totally overwhelmed by just the number of things that I could be working on at any given moment. So I've got my priorities, and then it kind of breaks down beyond that, and I'll take this over to my main workspace and have it as a reference all day. I also do all of my doodling and ideating on this yellow paper, which then at the end of the month or whenever I have time, I tear it all out and I collate it into these different idea binders and note binders. So in this one, if we were to pull it out, you'd see that there's sections for like all the different things that I tend to design a lot of. So brushes and brooms, obviously, but also things like, you know, traditional furniture or chair making specifically. And so I can tear all that stuff out, collate it, and then when it comes time to design a new chair, I've got about 100 ideas. Also, I'm a huge fan of having books around, so you can see I'm kind of surrounded by them. And then all of my in-process work. So right now I'm finishing up another one of these big, wild, many-headed broom commissions, and over there you'll see all of the parts for about 10 more different shapes. Here's the joint samples for those pieces as I was trying to figure out how to make it work and how to make it beautiful, and another in-process piece. So yeah, that's that. Oh, and a bunch of wood to buck up to turn into chair seats. Anyway, come check back in if you want to see where I'm at. All right, bye y'all.
Absolutely incredible.
So much shop envy. Also, for that big of a space for 2 people is just incredible.
Yeah, I'm envious of the ability to leave projects mid-completion.
Yeah.
I think more than anything else. I love all the quirky hand tools, the very specific niche hand tools, like the tenon cutting plane.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the tapered plane?
Yeah, the tapering plane.
That's super cool.
Yeah, pretty sweet.
We also love the French cleat system because things are always in flux here, and we like to be able to change it at the drop of a hat.
Yeah, 100%. So thanks, Aspen, for sending that in. So you can see the level of expertise that has gone into this project and into this masterclass. That's what we wanted to show you there.
Yeah. Cool.
Should we
Round it out?
mosey into the second half of this template? I guess before we get started, I want to say if you have any questions, again, please still be putting those into the chat. We'll be answering them at the end of the show, and they can be related to this project, or they could be related to any other Origin thing that you've got going on. That's part of the point of this show, is that we can just answer whatever questions we get.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Take it away.
You're taking it away.
I'll take it away.
All right. So we're rolling back into cutting this. What are we changing here? We're putting that 7/1000th offset back on these helix holes. And what's cool about Origin is that it's always remembering what you're working on, so that even if you take a pause to watch a shop tour video, you can always just roll right back in to what you were cutting. So even if you unplug it, turn it off, move to a different workspace, come back to a workspace that you were previously working on, it's remembering everything that you're doing all the time. So that, you know, if you need a break, if you want to come back to something that you were working on a while ago, you can just return to it super easily. That's all saved in workspaces. We should show you workspaces when we're done cutting this out. But before we do that, Jake's going to go ahead and cut the outer profile of this second part of the bending fixture. So again, that lighter blue area is where Origin was ramping down to that final 3/4 inch depth. And now what Jake's doing is roughing out the outline of the fixture here. Again, this is that roughing pass, so he's removing a lot more material this first time around. You can see this bit is literally going from nothing to a full slot. When he's going around the outside, obviously, there's not much to cut. But then coming back into it, and now he's going to be cutting through that ramp section and then transitioning into that finish pass. So here, removing a lot less material so that we can get a nice smooth contour on, especially on the bending side of this bending template, the curved side. The other three sides don't matter so much, they're more for looks, but you really want the curves of every part of this stacked bending template to line up, otherwise you're going to get some weird discontinuities in your piece. That's what's so good about these digital templates in Origin, is that as long as the template's the same and we haven't changed it from part to part, you are going to have exactly matching curves. And when Jake reaches the end of that auto pass path, Origin retracts automatically for him to say, hey, you're done.
Alrighty.
Nice.
Grab my handy dandy pry bar.
Yeah, don't have to be as careful with the MDF. Pretty good. Got a nice little sculpture in the middle there, too.
Yeah, there you go.
I think we should go ahead and glue all this stuff together so that we can see how these curves line up.
I saw you brought that bottle of glue over.
I did.
Glad.
I think this is the first time we've done this on this show. Have we ever glued anything on the show before?
I don't know, actually.
I didn't bring clamps, but I think that.
But we brought a
be-
mallet.
But we brought a mallet. I think it'll be okay. as
You know
it
the
is.
rules.
Yeah, if you don't cut it, then you get to assemble it. So I'm going to make sure that I've got my parts matched where I want them to be. Okay, that one goes there. Yeah, let's go ahead and glue this up. We'll just do... This is really just to hold it together. It doesn't have to be super well covered or strong.
I'm going to grab you two more of those.
Two more... oh, because we've got two sides. Good call. All right, so you can see the fit on these pins. Let's go to the overhead camera here. What do we think? Oh, yeah. Good fit on that. And let's do this part right here. Oh, yeah, that feels good. Those pins are going to hold this in place just fine. Yeah, that's pretty good. Thank you. While I'm putting this next one together, you could show that off on the camera so that we can see the curves lined up on that.
That is just, you don't even feel an edge.
Don't mind me, by the way. I'm going to be hammering a little bit.
Cool.
Yeah, just a little bit of glue to hold this together. You could even, use this and not necessarily even wait for the glue to dry before you do it. It's just more of a long-term thing.
Yeah.
Nice, little too much right here.
Excellent.
Part 2.
And then, well, there you go.
Yeah, and then we've got this tapered piece that we figured we could squeeze between there. This is one that we made for a previous bench dustpan. Yeah, pretty solid. You got the clamp. And there are 3 clamping points on this. You want to get that diagonal clamp and then the left and the right clamp across that way. The diagonal clamp helps keep the parts nice and parallel and squeeze that middle section cleanly. So that's helpful.
So cool. Trying to make a tapered bending jig by hand sounds very tricky.
Yes.
Drawing that out and cutting it and having it all be super fluid, smooth. So.
Yeah, we recommend you start with Aspens first. It's already all designed.
Yeah. Very, very cool. Other neat trick is put a little packing tape on the inside edges of the clamping form because glue doesn't like to stick to packing tape.
Good tip. Speaking of designing your own and / what Aspen has done.
Yeah.
There's something that Aspen put together for this project. Oh, thank you. That we used for one of these bench brushes or the bench dustpans that we made, but then we wanted to riff on it a little bit for our own. So you can't really tell what this is just by looking at it, but this is actually the side profile of Aspen's dustpan. You can see we've kind of riffed on it here where we've got this curve here and a little bit more of an exaggerated curve at the handle here. You've got 2 sides of a dustpan.
You want them to be the same.
You want them to match. She's got a really cool tip in how to get the taper to match left and right, which is to cut a very tall lamination and actually cut that in half so the left and right side is actually made from the same piece. But then once this is all glued up, how do you shape that right and left side to be exactly symmetric? Well, that's where this comes in. In the project on Shaper Hub, you can download this and, for example, laser cut it like we did, or even print it on a printer.
Yeah.
Then why don't you do this on the overhead cam, kind of this process of lining that up. Yeah, Ian says the side cam. How about that? Line that up and kind of trace that around. I think you need to come down a little bit.
There you go.
There we go.
We actually, if you're doing a lot of these, we laser cut this out of a super thin, flexible plastic so that it's got a little bit more life to it.
Yep.
But a paper template.
Printed paper template works fine. But what we wanted to do for ours is you can see that kind of more exaggerated curved shape that Jake's got there. How do you capture this and share it with other people or make this kind of laser cut template on your own? That's where Trace comes in. So we wanted to walk you through that process. Skipped a couple of steps on here. I got the template already over on the piece of paper, but you can see the very first thing that we did. Why don't we show this off? Maybe the side cam will show that, or we might have to do that on the origin cam. Can you guys see the pencil marks on that? We just sketched this out right on the dustpan itself. So that's a really good way to just kind of prototype. You can erase, you can try things again. And then when you get a pencil line that you really like, we layered a piece of packing tape over that, clear packing tape, so you can see through it. You can see those pencil lines that you made. And then I drew over that. I traced it with a clear Sharpie, I was going to say. A thin Sharpie. Clear Sharpie, thin Sharpie, thin Sharpie on clear packing tape. That's a mouthful.
There you go.
Thin Sharpie on clear packing tape. And now what I have, I think we need 2 overhead cams.
I know.
Goose would love getting us a new overhead cam, wouldn't he?
But you can see it there.
You can see that. You can see that outline on the packing tape, which I just applied to a piece of paper because you do need that white background for trace.
Yeah, all about that high contrast.
Okay. So what we're going to do is we are going to capture this with trace. We are going to show you how to save this then to your files on ShaperHub, and also how to turn this into a ShaperHub project really easily if you want to use that as the basis for something new to share with people.
Yeah.
All right, so I think we can pop over to the phone now. I have the Trace app queued up here. Okay, we can see this. As we expect, when we come over the Trace frame, it turns it into black and white, and it says ready to capture. I'm going to click the capture button. Oop. There was an issue processing my capture. Let's try that again. Okay, I'm in the Trace app. Let's come over here, ready to capture. Hold at an angle. Let's hold it more of an angle. So it gives you some tips to get the best possible results. There we go. So zooming in on this, I can see I've got just a little bit of a fuzzy area over here. I'm going to tune that with the settings in Trace. That's right here on these slider buttons. Okay, I want to go into Adjust Scan, and you can see that I've got just a little bit of whiteness over here, so I'm going to turn the contrast up. Or do I need to turn the contrast down for that? I think it's up. Yeah, there we go. Until that gets all filled in. We're going to do a little bit more, actually. Okay, so that's a nice, solid black outline. Hit done. And I can even make this a center line. So I've got a nice, smooth center line that's going to be the outline that I'm going to share. To share that, just hit that check button. You can save this SVG to modify on your computer or send to a laser cutter if you want. You can also save to Shaper My Files, and this is how we get things to Origin. I'm also going to show you how to use that to turn this into a ShaperHub project. So we'll save to Shaper My Files. Let's call this Dustpan Contour. Save that. Okay, and now it's saved to my files. I want to actually look at this. I'm going to open my files. Here we are in my files, Jake's My Files. If you click these three dots to the right-hand side of Dustpan Contour, you've got an option here to make this a ShaperHub project. So there's a lot of other information that you can fill out here, some photos of your project, a video link, a description, instructions. But you can see here's my file for Dustpan Contour. And I could call this Jake's Dustpan Contour and share this with folks so that you've got kind of an alternate side profile for this dustpan compared to the one that Aspen provided.
Sweet. I love how easy that is.
Fun little technique there.
Yeah. Cool. And again, it's when it comes to actually shaping this thing, highly encourage you to go check out Aspen's masterclass. She does a fantastic job on really how to work with this seemingly delicate but just kind of awkward thing to really shape. And she does a masterful job at it.
Yeah, 100%. It's a lot of content, and you're going to learn something new every minute.
Yeah.
That sounds like such a cliche. I caught that coming out of my mouth. You're going to learn something new every minute, but I don't say that lightly. It's really true.
I mean, even just the hand planing to actually get the taper on the strips of material, like her technique was amazing.
Yes, incredible. Cool. So I think it's time to roll into those question and answers. If you're watching this live on YouTube, you know we never do this. I'm going to say like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. And join us next time live. That's what we prefer even more. If for you to join us next time live, where you get to hang out for this giveaway and question and answer we're about to do. So see you then.
Bye, y'all.
Thanks.